Welcome to Toronto. Oh, and Niagara Falls, but that'll be a bit later in the video. Morning guys, for our first morning here in Toronto. Now we did a bit of an oopsie. We booked Montreal and Toronto very last minute, like we really just left it to the last minute. So we booked in a bit of a rush, and what we didn't really realise was just how far our Airbnb is out of Toronto City. Now the ad said it was 15 minutes from downtown Toronto, which sounds great, but our tired brains didn't factor in the thought that that probably meant a 15-minute drive. So we've got an hour public transport journey ahead of us, a bus, 2 trains, but it's all about the adventure. We'll get in there eventually. Okay, we have made it into Toronto. We are in kind of the old Toronto area. We had a very eventful journey, and more than the fact that we had to take 3 different methods of transport to get here. We took a train in the wrong direction once, fortunately only 1 stop. We then got back on the right direction and there was a mechanical issue, so we didn't actually move for a very long time. And then there were some interesting characters on the train as well, but we made it. It took us probably well over an hour to get in, but we are here now. We actually don't have a lot of plans for today. We are just going to do a bit of a wander actually. We normally take our first day off in a new city off. We edit, we relax, get our bearings, but we have a very special day trip planned for tomorrow. So we kind of lose a day out of Toronto to that. So we're gonna go around and explore today.
Stace says that this building behind me is a famous building because it's so thin. Apparently it's called the Gooderham Building. Wow. I have to tell you, with all the food that I'm probably gonna purchase from Walmart, like Cheetos and Cheez-Its and all of those glorious foods, I'd be worried I wouldn't fit through this building after a couple of weeks. This building is like what the night bus turns into when it has to squeeze between 2 buses, except that's what this building is all the time.
So I looked up the Gooderham Building, and it is an office building apparently, very unique, also known as the Flatiron Building for, you know, obvious reasons, but it's a pretty cool and unique building. I believe there's also a similar looking one in New York, but very unique. We have come to the St. Lawrence Market, which is this huge market here in Toronto. It's an indoor market. It's actually quite big considering it's indoor. Now, if you've been following our videos, you know we love wandering through a food market. We went to one in Barcelona. If you haven't seen that, we'll link that up here, and a bunch of other places as well. But we're just gonna wander, check out what different foods there are, maybe try some if we see something that tickles our fancy.
And guys, this market is so big, there's actually a downstairs as well. So a double-story market. So far downstairs we've seen a really cool souvenir shop, a huge bakery, and a lot more food options too. Guys, I've just stumbled across this really cool mural where everyone in the picture seems to be having a lot of fun, but what's going on here? That is terrifying. We have now stumbled across the Hockey Hall of Fame. We had a bit of a browse through the gift shop. Now it does cost $25 to enter the actual museum, so because we're back on budget life, we're not going to go. But I would recommend coming to the building just to check out the store, but also the architecture of the building. It's pretty cool. Kind of all open on the ceiling, very warm inside, and best of all, they have a special edition Tim Hortons.
And speaking of the special Hockey Hall of Fame Tim Hortons, we've come here for lunch. If you don't know, Tim Hortons are absolutely everywhere in Canada. Like a Starbucks or like a Dunkin' Donuts on every corner. They have food, donuts, coffee. We picked up some chicken wraps for lunch before we keep on adventuring.
And what do we have for dessert, Stace? Reluctantly.
Yeah, we picked up some unique sweet treats from the supermarket for dessert.
Yeah, after I've just said that we're not spending $25 on the tour of the Hockey Hall of Fame, Stace is going to spend $7 on unnecessary chocolate and candy sweets. I don't know why I'm complaining, I really like chocolate. Alright, we've eaten our lunch, chicken wraps, pretty good, and now to top it off, we've got a cookie dough flavoured Mars bar. I'm pretty sure we don't have these at home. If we do, we've never tried them. It just tastes like a really caramelly Mars bar. Not a bad thing. I don't taste a lot of cookie dough.
And I picked out Twizzlers nibs, cherry flavour. I love normal Twizzlers. I think I've tried cherry Twizzlers, but these are little nibs, so they're handy. I feel like I can smell it more than I can taste it, but I like it. You're not going to like it. our lunch and have come out just to wander again, and we've wandered up here to Union Station, which I believe is like a bit of a transport hub here. I think if you're wanting to go to say like Niagara Falls, you would go from Union Station. But oh my god, it is probably the most beautiful train station I've ever seen. It actually looks fake. Just the architecture, the old style. It's pretty crazy. And then the view of the station with the CN Tower in the background as well. It's pretty cool.
And this is the inside. It's like Grand Central Station. We have now left what felt to be like the CBD type area, and we're walking towards downtown. Downtown! You wanna be I forgot the words. We have made it to Phillips Square, and as you can see, there is a pretty cool Toronto sign behind us. Extra pics there, but they seem to think that the water behind us in winter becomes an ice skating rink, which is pretty cool and not something you would ever experience in Australia.
That is not at all a verified fact, but I just see a little stand that says skates, and I don't know, it looks like it could be. It could happen. And guys, just next to Phillips Square, you kind of see it a little bit there, is the old City Hall, which is a really beautiful building. It has a nice clock tower, very beautiful. And then somewhere, back there somewhere, is the current City Hall, which is the house of the current mayor. But old City Hall is pretty to me. Guys, this area of Toronto is really pretty. I really love the sign, I love the colours, I love the water in front of it with the kind of water feature, and I love that it sets back onto the old City Hall, which is so pretty. It kind of stands out in a sea of skyscrapers and high-rise buildings that are all very modern. There is this old style building and it just looks really pretty.
And if you get close enough to the sign, you will see that it's actually got a bit of colour in it as well, a bit of art. So make sure if you do come here, you don't just stand back far away to get the whole sign in the picture. You go up close and take a bit of time to appreciate those little pictures in the letters.
And as well, I believe that building there is the new and current City Hall where the mayor sits. And that's the old one there. Much prettier in my opinion.
I agree. We are now cutting through the Eaton Centre, which is this huge shopping mall, where we do have a destination in mind, out like across on the other side of the centre.
We're a bit sidetracked.
We are a bit sidetracked. I blame Stace. She's window shopping. We will see if it remains behind the window. I will say that the ceiling here is very similar to the one in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which I thought was really cool. So maybe it's like a common architectural design. I don't know. We have now exited the Eaton Centre and we are now standing in what I have been told is Toronto's version of Times Square. And I have to say I kind of agree. Good suggestion, Jason, because there are screens in every direction I look. It really has that kind of New York Times Square feel about it. It's pretty cool.
I think it's called the Yonge-Dundas Square or Yonge-Dundas Square. One of the two.
It's pretty pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty pretty.
Pretty pretty. Doesn't this feel like the place where all of your dreams come true?
No, because Rosh wouldn't let me buy a puzzle.
Toronto, Toronto! You get it? Toronto, Toronto! Good morning everyone. Today we're going a little bit out of Toronto, about 2 to 3 hours, because we are going to go see Niagara Falls. We have never seen Niagara Falls before.
I've seen Victoria Falls in Zambia and they were pretty incredible, so I'm pretty excited to see Niagara Falls.
I don't think I've ever seen an exceptionally large waterfall. I don't think I have. Now there are plenty of ways that you can get to Niagara Falls. There are plenty of tours and I'll link a few of them in the description below, but because we're on such a strict budget, because I'm not gonna lie, we went over budget in Europe, it's a touchy subject.
So we'll get ourselves to a train station, get a train, get a bus. It's not too bad. And we'll go into a little bit more detail later in terms of the ticket we bought for the train/bus. It's a little confusing what I found. I did a lot of research. Hopefully our one works. It gets us there and back. But
we think we're going to Niagara Falls today.
Okay guys, we have made it to Niagara Falls. That was an incredibly long journey, oh my god. So as we mentioned, we had to get a bus. First we had to walk a kilometre from our accommodation to the bus. The bus was about 15 minutes. We then got on the GO train. We got off at Burlington and then switched to the bus, the GO bus. And then once we got to the bus terminal here at Niagara Falls, you then had to get another bus to get to the actual falls area itself. So in terms of tickets, we bought a group pass for the GO transit system, which was $30 Canadian for the day, and it covered for 2 people, unlimited use of the GO system. Now I spent ages looking up whether that was a better option than just buying a return ticket for the day. It seemed to be a lot cheaper, so I'm not sure if I did it wrong, but whenever I put in our starting destination and destination, it was more expensive. So $30 for that. We then purchased our WeGo bus ticket once we arrived at the Niagara Falls bus terminal, which is the bus that will take you all along the kind of falls area itself. And that was $12 Canadian for each of us, so 24 all up, and that's all day use. And you could buy that at the bus terminal, but it was cash only. So all up, we spent $54 Canadian for our transport from Toronto and back to Toronto for the day. Now there is a direct train from Toronto, which is a relatively new thing. I think it leaves at night 9:10 in the morning. It takes you all the way to near the bus terminal. But we wanted to leave a little bit earlier, so we opted not to do the direct train. It was a similar time anyways, and the bus was easy enough. It's definitely a doable day trip, but it was quite a long journey, particularly with the bus. We got stuck in very bad traffic.
Now, because it is such a journey coming from Toronto, if you're not on a budget as strict as us, I would definitely recommend checking out a tour that brings you from Toronto, or even when you get here doing something like a boat cruise, a speedboat ride, or even the zip line that goes along the edge of opposite the falls. And there's even a tower here that looks a little similar to the CN Tower that you would find in Toronto that you can go up to and get a really, really good view of the falls. Now guys, look how far away I am from the falls right now, and no joke, I can feel water in the air. It's like mist coming at me, and that has to be like, I don't know, really far away. Like at least 300, 400 meters, I'd say. Some brave souls heading into the mist. So, it actually feels like a heavy downpour right now. What's going on? That's not rain, that's mist. Well, that's waterfall, but it's not falling. It's like misting. You know what I mean? So I won't lie, I know nothing about Niagara Falls other than the fact that they're like giant waterfalls, right? And that you have to see them if you come to Toronto, or, you know, Canada in general, really. So I'm very surprised to come and see the falls kind of almost in the middle of the town of Niagara. Like, there's a street right there. There was a Hard Rock Cafe. There was a casino, hotels that have views of the falls. I kind of expected we'd have to come into kind of like a national park, kind of like the Grand Canyon. Nothing would be around, but no, they're just there, and that is wild.
As we continue to walk closer and closer to the main falls, there's literally like a line in the road where it's like dry and wet. You can see the mist all in the air coming up from the falls. Well, I think I'm going to venture into the wet area.
Into the mist?
Into the mist.
Have you not seen the movie The Mist? You don't want to go into the mist.
I've seen The Hunger Games Catching Fire.
Oh, that's similar result. Well, it depends on which way the wind is blowing, we've discovered. Now I am looking very damp because we've made our way up the Table Rock area to the top of the Horseshoe Fall. This is like nothing I've ever seen before. It's pretty spectacular. It is only way I can describe it really is like a savanna of water, just endless water that looks like land, but it's water moving so quickly down the falls.
Now, if you didn't know, Niagara Falls actually kind of sits between Canada and the US. Stacey. And it's actually made up of 2 sets of falls. So you've got the American Falls and you've got the Canadian Horseshoe Falls, which are probably, I'd say, the most iconic ones. It's definitely the bigger set of falls. The Horseshoe Falls are about 180 feet and they let over 6 million cubic feet of water every minute, which is crazy. So they're definitely the bigger set. The American Falls are also very, very pretty. The whole area is just pretty insane, and it's crazy. We're here in Canada, literally can see America on the other side of the river, which is it's just super cool. Something also that's just come to mind for me is, as I said, Niagara Falls sits between Canada and the US. It seems to be a common theme with waterfalls, because when I went to Victoria Falls in Africa, they sit between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Is this what waterfalls are? Divide different countries? Who knows? But it's pretty it's a fun fact. But something else really cool about the falls, well, I don't know if it's cool, but it's a fact, is that every year they kind of degrade another foot back, the Horseshoe Falls. So kind of slowly creeping back. Don't know what that means for Canada, but interesting fact.
There's now almost like a vortex of mist in front of the Horseshoe Falls. Not sure how well it's coming up on camera, but it's pretty cool to see. We are now walking up a massive hill, if I do say so, I must admit. But we're walking up the hill to come into the town of Niagara. We're looking for some food options. There were some food options at the falls in the gift shop area. Bit spenny. So we're looking for some cheap ones. I'm thinking Tim's. I can't really explain what I'm about to say, but this area has a bit of a Las Vegas feel to it. I don't know why, like the buildings are quite big. There's no really loud music. There was a Margaritaville, but I don't know. Maybe it's because it's like in the middle of nowhere. There's a casino as well. I love Vegas.
We've wandered into Fallsview Casino Resort, and it is huge. There are so many shops and dining options, so we're hoping to find a Tim Hortons or something that will be similarly affordable for lunch. But we are going to have a bit of an explore as well. We found a cake vending machine. Let that sink in. It looks so good. It's $11 a slice though, so probably a bit outside our budget, but I'm so tempted because it looks really good.
And that big bridge right over there is the bridge that connects Canada to the USA. It's called Rainbow Bridge, not to be confused with Rainbow Road, which is the road that you will drive in when you're playing Mario Kart. We just tried to walk across it. We thought it'd be really cool to say we stepped foot into the USA for like a second. But no, you have to bring your passport, which is like, it makes sense. We just didn't think about it.
Well, that was absolutely worth the trip out here. No matter how many buses, trains, hours it took to get here, the falls are absolutely incredible, and you definitely have to do, if you're ever in Toronto, do the day trip or even come stay here in Niagara. It's absolutely beautiful. But now let's head back to Toronto. We've got one more day there to explore the city. Welcome to our third day here in Toronto. We are standing outside the CN Tower currently, trying to decide if we want to go up. It's about $40-something each to go up to that first observation deck there, and then there's one even higher which obviously costs more. Probably won't go up, but we're just admiring its height and its beauty. It's 550 meters tall, which is mind-blowing. I feel like it doesn't look 550 meters, but it is. That first deck, there's actually a revolving restaurant that sits at 350 meters tall, which is wild. But just admiring its beauty. It's obviously the most iconic structure in Toronto's skyline, so we had to come closer and give it a real good look. Guys, Rosh is mad at me because she's on my phone and I have 500 tabs open on Safari.
Why? In what situation do you need 500 tabs open?
They don't bother me. I just open a new one each time.
Me. You can't. You're at max now. I couldn't open the new tab.
You should see her inbox. Guys, we were just looking up the restaurant because we're absolutely not going to be able to go there, but we were just curious. And apparently to get up to the free 60-degree restaurant, you have to spend a minimum of $75 per person on food. You do obviously get the lift up for free and the views. It's expensive, but given it costs about 40-something each just to get up for the views.
And then you're getting $75 worth of food. I think that's pretty good. At over 500 meters tall, it is taller than the Eiffel Tower. Now, if you saw our Paris video, you would know that I didn't cope super well when we went up to the top of the Eiffel Tower, so it's probably a blessing in disguise that we're not breaking the budget to go up today. But I'm watching the lift, and I'm telling you, when the lift comes down, it looks like it's a controlled fall. It is flying down and also flying up, so that would not be good for the nerves. Also, Stace just told me that you can actually do something like a skywalk,
edge walk, or something like that.
Where essentially, I think you're out, must be the first level, and you're outside walking along the edge, like just held by a cable.
And
Why?
Now, It's my turn to surprise you. We have wandered across now to the Harbourfront area of Toronto. It's absolutely beautiful, looking out at the water, a bit of a fresh breeze in your hair. It's quite a beautiful day, very sunny here today, so it is getting a bit hot, so it's nice to just come here with the fresh breeze, look out. If you don't know, there are 3 islands off of Toronto, which are called like the Toronto Islands. The main one being Centre Island, I believe. And I think across there there's some beaches, I think there's a bit of an amusement park. So it is a nice place to go across and ride a bike around and explore and things like that.
Kind of sounds a bit like Sentosa Island, which we visited in Singapore.
If you haven't seen that video, we'll link it up there. But yeah, it does sound a bit like that. You can get the ferry across, which I think is about $8.50 for a return ticket for an adult. Or there are various different water taxis and things like that. But meant to be very nice, and there are meant to be a couple of spots which have really good views back onto the Toronto skyline as well. And you can get the ferry to Centre Island from a port. I can't recall the name of the port, but it is right in downtown Toronto, so it's not out of the way or anything. If you are out exploring the city, you can hop on the ferry across to Centre Island and have a look around. Something I really loved about our time here in Toronto is just literally just wandering the city. We did it a bit on our first day, and we didn't really have much of a game plan of what we wanted to do, and we just wandered and saw what we came across, and we're doing a bit of that again today. We obviously went to the CN Tower, wandered over to the Harbourfront, and now we're just wandering back into the city just to have a bit of a browse. It's a very beautiful city. Definitely has a bit more of like a CBD feel to it compared to a lot of the cities we went to in Europe, but with the Harbourfront right here, it definitely breaks it up a little bit. And if you head over to like Old Toronto as well, that definitely feels very different.
Alright guys, we are finishing up our time here in Toronto in front of Scotiabank Stadium, which is the home of the Toronto Raptors and also the Maple Leafs, who I think are Toronto's ice hockey team. So it's a basketball court and an ice hockey rink. Wow, pretty cool.
So that's it, we wandered over to have a quick look, but now it's time to end our time in Toronto. We've had such an amazing time here in Toronto and also at Niagara Falls yesterday, which was incredible. For now, we're on to our next stop in Canada, where we'll be basing ourselves for a couple of weeks. We've got a lot of exciting things planned there.
Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video because it really helps with that algorithm, pushes it out to people who might not see it otherwise. We appreciate it.
Anyways, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.